Hello, this is Dave from net4truthusa.com. Welcome again to Coffee with Dave, issue number 5. It is December 31st, 2016, the day before New Year's. Everybody have a happy New Year. Have a safe New Year. Stay off the roads. There are a lot of idiots out there driving drunk, texting. I don't want to hear about anybody getting hurt New Year's, but unfortunately, with these idiots out there, that's inevitable. Please be careful. Please avoid being out during the peak hours of New Year's to avoid the idiots. Today, I have something of a bit of levity for my viewers. I've covered the Mandela effect. I've mentioned Flat Earth. I don't want to hear about Flat Earth no more. I'm tired of hearing about Flat Earth. Flat Earth is the realm of idiots and morons and retards. If you believe in Flat Earth, you don't want to hear this. You don't want to be on this channel because I don't tolerate stupidity. A wise man once said, "Stupidity is the pursuit of ignorance." And if you believe there's a flat Earth, then you're pursuing your own ignorance. Please take your medication, and if you can't afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help. The following article is entitled Butterflies Farting in Kenya, and I believe this is sort of related to the Mandela effect in that little changes and little unintended actions have consequences down the road. They can't change the past, but they can surely change the future. And instead of looking at the top of my hat while I read this article to you, I'm going to have some butterfly pictures flashing across the screen. They are used with permission, and the links are going to be down in the description for that and a bunch of other valuable and interesting resources. This is Dave from net4truthusa.com. Please enjoy. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to click link, like, and subscribe, and click the bell. You'll get notified of all the future videos that we make here. Thank you very much. Have a happy New Year. Butterflies farting in Kenya can cause a tornado in Kansas. Quantum mechanics, particle physics, parallel universes, the symbiosis of free will and predestination, the sound of one hand clapping, and seemingly unimportant decisions. One can see or observe the effects of causes he puts into motion, or he can know the effect of an action by logic and reason. For example, a man observes the effect of firing a bullet at a target. He can see the effect of a batter hitting a ball that flies over the outfield fence. One is taught from infancy that he is responsible for his actions or for his failure to act. He is at cause for the effects that are the result of his actions or inactions, whether or not he had intended to cause what ultimately happened. Responsibility, however, is a human judgment. Responsibility requires that an effect is intended and could be reasonably foreseen by the person initiating the cause. It therefore follows that it is possible to be at cause without being responsible. People in general have problems with the terminology and thereby do not have a firm grasp of the concepts. I think it would be safe to say that if most of us could foresee the long-range effects of what we do without much thought, it would be a much different world indeed. There are the seeds here for endless discussions. However, some very important axioms must be taken into account in order to speak with any authority here. There are natural laws involved that must be known, and must be known as laws, not rules or guidelines. In the physical universe, the laws of the sciences, physics, mathematics, gravity, momentum, etc., cannot be violated. They are immutable and self-enforcing. For instance, the effect of an action always follows the cause, and a cause itself is dependent upon prior effects, some of which may seem to be irrelevant. Just because we cannot make the connection to remotely related causes or see into the future in order to decide whether or not we should take some action or withhold it, does not mean that these cause-effect relationships do not exist. It is a true datum that Good or pro-survival causes for the most part go unnoticed, while evil or contra-survival causes create an effect that is noticed or manifested almost immediately. For example, firing a bullet at a person's head, cause, creates the intended death of an enemy, effect. Everybody takes notice of a dead body. It is in the way at first, and then begins to stink. Upon even a cursory examination of the corpus delicti in this example, there is no doubt as to what the cause was, a bullet, and if the perpetrator was not observed in flagrante delicto, then the person responsible can be determined by forensic science. A person who would mediate such a dispute before it came to gunplay is at cause for an effect also. The effect is that the bullet is caused, never to be fired. The parties to the dispute may thank the mediator, but you're not likely to see this action reported on the 6 o'clock news. The good we do is most often unseen and unnoticed. One may argue that both the good and the bad in the foregoing examples are of equal magnitude. One results in a life taken, the other in a life saved. One can postulate far enough into the future to know that a .357 Magnum bullet fired at a man's head will most probably kill him. One cannot have foreseen that a dispute would, if not mediated, result in a murder. Therefore, the good, the unwitting prevention of evil, goes wholly unnoticed. There are natural laws which are largely unknown, or at least ignored, that determine what can or cannot happen in our universe. Law number 1. Like begets like. Most of the time, evil acts bring about evil acts or undesirable consequences of one sort or another. Religion, biblical admonitions, and golden rules notwithstanding, this is the primary reason that we should love our neighbor as ourselves. Law number 2. You reap what you sow, only in abundance. I like to call this the law of the harvest. Even more reason to keep law number 1 in mind. Reaping and sowing are farming terms. One sows a seed and gets fruit or crops after a while. We know its cause and effect with plants, trees, and crops, and so it is with actions. We don't see the results right away, but when the crops start sprouting, we know that our planting the seeds caused it. Law number 3. Where there is an apparency of an exception, there is really no exception, only a misunderstanding or a delay in the harvest. The single valid exception could be a test from God designed to bring one to an understanding of these principles. Psychology and psychiatry do not normally concern themselves with anything outside of immediately observable or postulated cause and effect. No quarter is given to the physical sciences in this context, and spirituality, which is becoming increasingly relevant to the physical sciences, is ignored altogether. However, one should keep this thought in mind when dealing with psychology. Physical sciences, or the laws of physical sciences, cannot be disputed. Psychology is theory upon theory, which is in turn based upon fundamental misconceptions. There is cause for every effect, and since causes are interdependent, there is no such thing as a decision that is not important, no matter how seemingly unimportant it seems. Data is only as important as it is evaluated, is one of Scientology's axioms. Not that I'm a Scientologist. In the scheme of the universe, what may seem to be insignificant in present time may become significant as the crop we've sown nears harvest time. In retrospect, perhaps Adolf Hitler's parents had wished they had been more careful. If they had been, perhaps the world would be a much different place today. Who could have predicted what would arise down the road? The effects of Nazi Germany are still with us today. So is the effect caused by the fireman who saved a child's life 100 years ago, only we don't see it because we never noticed it to begin with. Cause and effect is an infinitely intricate and complex web that extends from the beginning of time to the end. Each event in that web has a vital part to play. Although a butterfly farting in Kenya is not likely to immediately cause twisters in Kansas, and fantastic unforeseen forays into the land of Oz, it could be a vital contributing factor in that the absence of the last straw, as it was, of a molecule or two of methane in this hypothetical tornado could have been prevented. The problem lies in how much methane comprises the last straw. But you can rest assured that there is a purpose for that butterfly and a reason behind the reason that it farts when it has to. God is present not only in physical space, but also in every moment of time as we understand it, past, present, and future. Prophecy is only the history of the future from our point of view. Free will and predestination exist simultaneously, as we can make the choices in the physical universe that take us where we are and lead us to where we are going, which God knew before the beginning of time. God, the spiritual being that so many deny, is and always has been extant in the universe. God exists outside of our concept of linear time. Quantum mechanics has proven that other time and spatial dimensions do exist, and since God created the universe, he controls those dimensions and the laws that govern them. God is, he never changes. An axiom of Scientology states, there is beingness, but man believes there is only becomingness. There is, because there must be, a state of existence in which all points of linear time exist at the same instant, and I must use the word instant, which implies the passage of time, since man has no concept of existence outside the constructs of matter, energy, space, and linear time. Creation, whatever one conceives it to be, is a fact. The fact that there is an immutable set of laws that govern matter, energy, space, and time is the evidence and the proof of intelligent intent. Design is obvious, and design requires a designer. We cannot hold two conflicting beliefs, that a God who created the universe would set it all in motion and then turn away, allowing it to evolve by the whims of random chance. Therefore, we must conclude that the primal cause, the creation event, that postulate that created all there is, and the word that caused it all to be and to become, contain the intent of the Creator, with at least the knowingness of the outcome as surely as it could be known, and as completely as it could be known. Since the universe and we continue to exist, we must say it is good, even by a secular definition. Although there are what we call evil or bad contra-survival events within this world, we can look at evil and destruction as simply a creation against a creation. Bad is an action we vilify because it opposes or uncreates that for which we have developed an affinity. Good cannot exist without evil. The condition is a point of reference. One cannot create total goodness in the universe without counter-creating or destroying all evil. Such a state would negate the free will of sentient beings to choose to love God or not. Our choices and our actions are part of the ripple effect of the singular primal cause. No matter how very insignificant it may seem, there is certainly no such thing as an unimportant decision. What results from intent of action is not random, but the road to hell, as they say, is often paved with good intentions. However, more often than not, to a degree that cannot be reliably known, the good certainly outweighs the evil, even by its secular survive-succumb definition. If it didn't, we wouldn't be here to discuss it. While a butterfly fart cannot be said to be good or bad because its long-term effects cannot be known, certainly it can be postulated that a butterfly feels better for having farted, or at least was prevented from exploding in midair should it have decided to withhold a fart for fear of triggering twisters in Kansas. In either case, the fart was inevitable. The choice was either to permit the fart to pass or attempt to restrain it from happening. The control of the fart is an imparency. A law of nature must say a fart must be farted, or farts are inevitable. Decisions are like farts. They must be made, and one can only with a certainty predict the immediate effect of farts. There is no difference with anything else. One may think that discussing flatulence and the Creator in the same article or even under the same set of covers is irrelevant at best, but they fail to realize that a God has a sense of humor, for even one butterfly must say to another, "Did you fart?" Of course, the one who farted has the right, as we all do, guaranteed by the First and Fifth Amendments, to admit, deny, or refuse to answer. The first is unabashed honesty. The second is not denial, but an inability to confront an embarrassing truth. And the latter is an invocation of the Fifth Amendment, which, in most people's eyes, is tacit admission of guilt. Admitted, denied, or left in the hand of a finder of fact to place blame, a fart still has its effect, even if it's only a comment. "Damn, Shorty, that's enough to knock a buzzard off a shit wagon." And a decision to go rub antennas, or however butterflies mate, with someone who doesn't eat burritos for breakfast. As with all things in this life, our actions and even our intention return to us at harvest time. The English poet John Donne wrote, "Any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee." In the context of cause and effect, paraphrasing, L. Ron Hubbard wrote in his book A New Slant on Life, quote, "One never sends to find for whom the bell tolls without full willingness to have tolled it and to have been the cause of its tolling," end quote. Any decision, any action or action withheld has its effect, no matter how seemingly unimportant it is at the moment. A fart or a bullet released into the universe or withheld from the universe has an effect upon the whole by its very existence. What we are responsible for is another thing entirely. We are the effects of cause, as well as the cause of effects. We can intend to initiate beneficial effects or harmful effects. We reap what we sow, and where there seems to be an exception, it is merely an apparency due to our short-sightedness and the mourning over things lost that we had an affinity for. We become, change. God is, He never changes. In order to become what the Creator wants us to be, we go to school in the physical universe. You and I are not only body and mind, we are souls. You are you in a body. The entity that is our beingness is not our physical body. It is something intangible, indestructible, and immortal. All of us, good or bad, have eternal life. We choose where we end up by the intent of our actions, and we choose to love God, admit, hate God, deny He exists, or attempt to avoid a decision. And we know that all things work together for good to them who love God, to them who are the called according to His purpose, according to Romans 8:28. You'll note that the scripture says all things, not some things, or only the good things. Even bad things, then, according to God's word, work together for the ultimate good of those who love Him. See also Genesis 50:20. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Isaiah 45:7. What are we to make of this? Evil exists for a purpose. It has been created for our choosing, that we might have a choice, so that our love of God would be given with the free and unfettered exercise of our free will. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life, that both you and your seed may live. Deuteronomy 30:19. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. John 3:16. If one believes there is a God, and that there is more to our existence than the instant of time we occupy in the eternity of beingness, then that person must eventually come to an awareness of himself as part of the divine will. However, even this is not sufficient, it seems, to cause intent toward good. Another force or forces, other effects, are in play here. If one cannot postulate that one's actions or actions withheld will affect the world forever, one limits his intent only to the immediate good effect on himself. Intent and motive always arise from the good it performs or is perceived to perform for the individual. One who commits suicide ultimately perceives that a good will arise from the taking of his own life, for afterwards there is believed to be a relief or escape from some irresolvable problem, pain, or situation. Even a crime that is committed brings a short-term good, real or perceived, to the perpetrator. A man seeking revenge intends to harm his target, not so much for the intent to cause harm per se. He is motivated toward the balance of what he perceives that justice should be. Another redirects or channels all of the effects on him onto inanimate objects, other people, or cats who happen to be there at the instant moment. The reader may think it strange that I chose to pick on the flatulence of butterflies to make my point, but it did get your attention if you've read this far, did it not? The intent had the desired effect then. It used your curiosity, or your sixth sense of humor, to get you to start reading or listening, and then like a bullet in flight, the action or motion tends to stay in motion until other effects, gravity, wind resistance, potentially dead bodies, or boredom, act against it. The fact if you read this or listened to it, no matter what you think of the article, it has its effect. You will always henceforth think of butterflies in Kenya and twisters in Kansas whenever something happens that you cannot explain or control. When you act or withhold yourself from acting, you will know that an effect, good or bad, is inevitable. And so when you formulate an intent, hopefully the intent is toward a greater good, and your harvest will be plentiful. If that happens to one person out of the many who will read this or listen to it, then a greater good will have been done by writing it than just the immediate effect of making you laugh and think a bit. If so, then I'll consider it mission accomplished. It should also be that because of someone else's reaction, I will have set in motion a persecution of Kenyan butterflies because of their potential to adversely affect weather patterns with their silent but deadlies. Perhaps I shouldn't publish this after all. Therefore, when your bad harvest arises out of your good intent, it does not mean that the natural or God-ordained laws are not working. Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you as though some strange thing happened to you. 1 Peter 4:12. So you see, there are things that happen which are unjust or not fair because our faith, our willingness to put ourselves in our Father's arms, is tested thereby. So we should not think it strange when the exception to the law occurs. The exception is an illusion, an apparency, and is tantamount to saying that because the crop failed this year, that nothing will ever grow from the ground again. Paul continues, But rejoice inasmuch as ye are partakers of Christ's sufferings, that when his glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad also with exceeding joy. 1 Peter 4:13. Even trials are seen as good things because they work to strengthen the faith and develop the patience of one who believes in and loves the God of the universe. So because seemingly unimportant decisions are important by their very definition, that their importance is not noticed for lack of data or foresight or erroneous evaluations that do not properly appraise the importance of the data because of the inability to view all the variables in context, work on your intentions, and do everything in love, leave suddenly unimportant decisions, or seemingly unimportant decisions, to the psychoanalysts who will drive themselves insane with it and don't feed Beano to the butterflies. Thank you for listening. Butterflies farting in Kenya can cause a tornado in Kansas. Quantum mechanics, particle physics,